Have you ever been told you'll never make it? That your dream is gone? That your best days are behind you? That your fight is over? This is the story of a man who refused to believe those words. A man whose body was shattered, whose hope was crushed, but whose spirit would not surrender. This is the story of Michael Grant the runner, who refused to quit. Michael grew up in a small Midwestern town, the kind where everybody knows your name. He wasn't the loudest kid, nor the most talented in school, but from an early age, he had one gift. He could run. Running, to him, was more than sport. It was freedom. The sound of his sneakers pounding against the dirt roads, the rhythm of his breath, the wind cutting across his face, it was the one place where the world made sense. Teachers noticed. His high school coach said, "Michael doesn't run on legs, he runs on heart." At local track meets, parents cheered for him as if he was their own son. The community began to believe he could be their hometown hero, the one who might win scholarships, maybe even races beyond their borders. Michael loved that idea, but more than anything, he just loved to run. On the track, he wasn't shy Michael. He wasn't a kid from a small town. He was unstoppable. But destiny had something waiting for him, something he could never have trained for. It was late October. The air was cool, the leaves crisp. Michael had just finished a long shift at work and was driving home, tired but content. He thought about lacing up his shoes for a light run tomorrow morning, but he never made it home. At an intersection just minutes away, a truck driver ignored a red light and plowed into Michael's small car at nearly 70 miles per hour. The impact was catastrophic. His car spun out of control, flipped, and landed on its side. First responders rushed to the scene. They found Michael conscious, but his legs were crushed under twisted metal, his body broken, his life hanging in the balance. At the hospital, surgeons worked through the night. Hours later, they gave him the news. "You're lucky to be alive, but your legs are badly damaged. You may never walk again." And running, that's not realistic anymore. The words pierced deeper than the injuries. For a runner, it was like being told he would never breathe again. The accident shook the entire town. His name was on everyone's lips. People sent flowers, cards, prayers. The community wanted to believe he would bounce back. But as weeks passed, the visits slowed. Life went on for everyone else. And Michael was left alone, lying in a hospital bed, staring at legs wrapped in bandages, trapped in silence. At night, he would whisper to himself, "Who am I if I can't run?" The doctors encouraged him to accept a new normal. Friends urged him to be grateful he had survived. His physical therapist focused on teaching the basics. Sitting up, standing with crutches. But deep inside, Michael was torn apart. Survival wasn't enough. Recovery was torture. Every movement sent pain ripping through his body. He collapsed often, sobbing in frustration. Crutches felt like chains. The outside world saw a young man lucky to be alive. Inside, Michael saw a prisoner in his own body. Voices battled inside his mind. One whispered, "Give up, accept it. Your life as you knew it is over." Another whispered, "Not yet. One more step." But pain made the darker voice louder. There were days he wanted to quit therapy altogether. Nights when he wondered if life was worth it anymore. Still, each morning, he forced himself to write one sentence in a small notebook. One more step than yesterday. Months dragged on. Surgeries failed. His legs became infected. He was forced back into the hospital again and again. One winter afternoon, sitting alone in his bedroom, Michael broke down. Tears streamed down his face. He looked at his trophies gathering dust, his running shoes shoved in the corner. Rage overtook him. He hurled the shoes across the room. That night, he scrolled through old photos on his phone. One image stopped him cold. A picture of himself crossing the finish line in high school, arms raised in triumph. He remembered the roar of the crowd, the fire in his chest, the joy of movement. He stared at that photo for a long time. Then he whispered, almost in defiance, "I will run again." When Michael announced his new goal, people thought he had lost touch with reality. His doctor shook his head. His therapist cautioned him gently. Even family members begged him not to set himself up for disappointment. But Michael didn't care. His vow wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about proving something to himself. He began training again not in stadiums, but in quiet rooms. He practiced standing longer, balancing on shaky legs, taking painful steps. He fell countless times. Each time he got up, he trained before dawn so no one would see his failures. He sweated through endless nights, gritting his teeth against pain. When exhaustion nearly broke him, he repeated his mantra, "One more step than yesterday." Progress was painfully slow. He celebrated tiny milestones, 5 steps without collapsing, walking across his living room, climbing a single stair. But the road was not smooth. He suffered setbacks, another minor surgery, muscle tears, days of immobility. Financial stress weighed on him as therapy bills piled up. At one point, he nearly gave in. Then came an unexpected blessing. His old high school coach visited him one morning. The coach had heard about Michael's vow. Instead of discouraging him, he said, "If you're serious, I'll help you train. But you have to promise me you won't quit, no matter how bad it gets." Michael agreed. Together, they built a routine. Pool exercises, resistance training, short walks in the park. Every day, he pushed further. Every night, he collapsed in pain. But little by little, the impossible began to look possible. Years passed. Michael's body transformed. His spirit hardened. He went from walker to jogger to runner. Finally, the day arrived. He registered for a half marathon. Friends thought he was insane. But Michael knew he wasn't racing against others. He was racing against a version of himself that had once given up. The morning of the race was cold. Standing at the starting line, he felt fear creep in. His legs trembled. What if he couldn't finish? What if the pain returned? The gun fired. Michael began. Every mile was agony. His body screamed at him to stop. He remembered the doctor's words, "You'll never walk again." With each step, he answered back, "Watch me." By mile 10, he wanted to collapse. But the crowd began to chant his name. Strangers who had never met him shouted encouragement. Tears blurred his vision. But he pressed on. When he crossed the finish line, arms raised, the crowd erupted. His coach hugged him. Strangers cried. Michael had done the impossible. Michael's story spread through his town, then far beyond. He became a symbol of perseverance, of grit, of the unshakable human spirit. Schools invited him to speak. Young athletes listened in awe. People facing their own battles found courage in his journey. But Michael never saw himself as a hero. To him, it was simple. I just decided I wasn't done yet. One more step than yesterday. That's all it takes. His story isn't about running. It's about life. It's about every person who has ever been told they can't. Every dreamer who's been told to quit. Every fighter who's been told their time is over. Michael proved that never give up is not just a phrase. It's a choice you make every single day. A choice to rise. A choice to fight. A choice to take one more step. So the next time you feel like quitting, remember Michael Grant, the runner who refused to quit.